U.S. Marshals Teddy Daniels and Chuck Owley are on a ferryboat in Boston Harbor, headed toward Shutter Island, an island containing a federal mental hospital for the criminally insane. They are going to the island because a woman patient named Rachel escaped the day before. Teddy is very ill, sweating and throwing up in the toilet, telling himself to get it together, because he is seasick. He goes up on deck to talk to Chuck, and it's apparent that they are new partners working for the first time together. During their conversation, it is revealed that Teddy's wife died in an apartment fire several years before. Chuck is sorry he brought it up. He refers to Teddy as boss all the way through the movie, and at one point mentions that Teddy is a legend, so we know that Teddy is well known through the Marshal Service and that he is Chuck's superior. They get to the island, and the ferry captain mentions that there is a big storm coming. Teddy and Chuck meet the deputy warden, McPherson, who takes them into the mental hospital grounds. There are high walls that make it look like a prison, and electrified wire on the perimeter, but the actual buildings and grounds look almost like a college campus. There is the A building, housing the male patients, B building for the women patients, and C building, which is situated on the highest point of the island, and we are told it was a Civil War fortress. It houses the most dangerous patients, and the marshals are told that under no circumstances are they to go there on their own without McPherson and Dr. Colley accompanying them. There is a brief argument when Deputy Warden McPherson requires them to give up their firearms. Teddy says that they are federal agents, but McPherson tells them that federal penitentiary law overrides that and says that they won't get through the gates with their weapons. They reluctantly give them up, with Chuck rather clumsily removing his holster from his pants, which gets him a look from McPherson and Teddy. Upon entering the compound, Teddy begins to notice some patients staring at him and giving him funny looks, showing the craziness they are getting involved with. They meet Dr. Colley, who explains a bit about the facility and psychiatry. Teddy still has a splitting headache from the ferry trip, and the doctor gives him some water and some pills. He explains that Rachel, a patient, has escaped the night before but says that it's impossible because she seems to have simply vanished through the walls. She is at Shutter Island because she drowned 3 of her children one by one, and then pretended that they had never died. In fact, she believes that she is still at her home at the hospital, and all of the staff and other inmates are merely neighbors or deliverymen that she encounters in her daily life. She refuses to accept that she has killed anyone, or even that her children are dead. They tour the rest of the island, where officers are looking for the escaped Rachel. There is a lighthouse on the other side of the island that is gated off, and there are armed guards, which makes Teddy a little suspicious. Teddy makes it clear that his job is to interview staff and patients. He says he needs the personnel records of the staff, but the doctor kind of blows that off. They go to the patient living quarters and interview staff about the night that Rachel left. In her cell, there is a loose floorboard and a handwritten note from her, saying the law of 4. Who is 67. The doctor has no clue what it means, and Teddy keeps a hold of the note for future investigation. After the meeting with staff, Dr. Colley has Teddy and Chuck over to his mansion on the island to have a cigar and something to drink. When they arrive, there is a Dr. Naehring, and he seems to be Dr. Colley's superior. Teddy takes an instant dislike to him when he notices a faint German accent, and the two verbally spar for a little bit. Teddy gets angry when they say that they've consulted the board of directors who have refused to release the staff's personnel records, angry enough that Teddy breaks a glass, threatens to end the investigation in the morning and turn his findings over to the FBI, and storms off in a huff. Since there is a storm, Teddy and Chuck decide to stay the night. It is revealed that Teddy was a soldier in World War II and that his wife died in an apartment fire. The next day, the storm has hit the island and it is clear the ferry will not arrive. Teddy was only bluffing the night before, as he has no intention of leaving without investigating the island some more. Teddy and Chuck have several interviews with the patients who were in the group therapy session with Rachel. They are unhelpful and all seem to be following a script because they say very similar things in their interviews. In one interview, a woman asks Chuck for a glass of water, and when he leaves, she grabs Teddy's notebook and writes something very quickly and gives it back to him. He and Chuck leave the hospital grounds and explore the island, ending up at the cemetery. The wind and rain are picking up and they find sanctuary in a cemetery vault. Chuck asks Teddy to level with him. He suspects that the last patient told him something while he was getting her water, and Teddy finally shows him the notebook, and it says run. Teddy finally explains that he was trying to get assigned to an investigation of the mental hospital for some time. He says that a man named Laadis was a maintenance worker at the apartment they lived in, and he was the arsonist who set the fire that killed his wife. He got off on a technicality, but later was caught when he killed some other people. He was sent to the mental hospital here. But when Teddy looked into it, there was no paperwork at all for Laadis, and he suspects that there is some greater conspiracy going on, or soon after the door busts in and there is a car spotlight on them from Depp. Warden McPherson's car. Has been looking for them and they get in and he takes them back to the hospital. They change out of their wet business suits, and the orderly gives them the staff white uniforms that almost make them look like patients, and he tells them that it will take a day or two to get their suits back. They don't like the whites but take them anyway. They meet in Dr. Colley's office again. They argue briefly about the investigation. But Dr. Colley tells him that Rachel was found. When Teddy goes to speak to her, it is clear that she is delusional when she pretends that Teddy is her husband. Rachel starts to freak out and they leave to go to Dr. Colley's office. Teddy suddenly falls ill with a migraine. He thinks he'll be okay, but then he starts to fall and Chuck catches him. The doctor gives him a couple of pills, but Teddy doesn't want to take them. Hess really sick, though, and the doctor almost insists that he take them. And he does. Chuck helps him down to the basement with all the rest of the staff to wait out the hurricane-like storm. Teddy then soon falls asleep. The next day is kind of chaotic. The backup generators fail, and all of the patients' cell doors were therefore opened. Trees are fallen all over the hospital campus with staff and officers trying to clean up as well as gather up all of the wandering patients. Teddy and Chuck use this as an opportunity to go up to C building while no one is really paying attention to them. The place is really dark inside and they wander around. A patient runs from them and they give chase. Chuck falls behind and the patient grabs Teddy from behind and is choking him. Teddy gets away and beats the crap out of him until Chuck pulls him off. A guard chews out Teddy and has Chuck help him take the patient to the medical center, telling Teddy to take a walk and cool off. Teddy wanders around and finds a row of cells where a prisoner is sitting by himself and saying the name Laadis. When Teddy demands the prisoner look at him, he realizes it is George Noyce, the guy who was a former patient here who told him about what was going on at Shutter Island. Noyce's face is badly beaten. He tells Teddy that the only way he can save Noyce is to forget his wife and Laadis and focus on what is going on here. Teddy looks guilty when Noyce tells him it is his fault that Noyce is back here because he kept inquiring about Laadis. Teddy promises that he'll get Noyce out of there. Noyce tells him that Laadis is no longer in C building, but that they have taken him to the lighthouse, where they are planning to do a lobotomy on him. He says that the lighthouse is where they do a lot of their experiments on people who are troublemakers. Teddy and Chuck leave and Chuck says he found Laadis's file but there was only his commitment paper in the file which he tries to show Teddy but he won't look at it now because he is intent on reaching the lighthouse. Teddy is acting suspicious of Chuck when he tries to talk him out of going to the lighthouse. They arrive at the cliffs over the ocean and realize they are too far south of the lighthouse. Teddy says he is going to go around and try to get there a different way. Again Chuck tries to talk him out of it because it's dangerous to scale the cliffs when it will be dark soon. They argue some more and Teddy tells him he is going by himself. Teddy gets near the lighthouse but finds that it is late enough in the day that the tide has cut off the lighthouse from the island. He gives up and goes back to where Chuck is to tell him they'll try later. But all he sees is a burning cigarette on the edge of the cliff. He looks over and sees Chuck at the bottom of the cliff with waves crashing over him. Shocked, Teddy climbs down the cliff but doesn't see Chuck at the bottom. He sees a cave in the side of the cliff with a fire burning inside. When he reaches the cave, he sees a woman armed with a knife. They begin talking and she says she is Rachel but that she was a doctor at the hospital who found out too much and they committed her and concocted a story that she killed her kids. The other Rachel must be an imposter they used to fool Teddy and Chuck. She says there is a secret government program to test a number of new drugs on the patients to make them sort of super spies or soldiers who don't feel pain and don't have memories that can be tortured out of them if they are captured. She then warns Teddy that they will not let him leave. They will concoct a story that he went crazy. Teddy leaves to confront Dr. Colley. Dr. Colley wonders where Teddy has been. Teddy says he'll be leaving and he asks if the doctor has seen Chuck, his partner. Dr. Colley says he came to the island alone, there was no partner. Teddy realizes that they are already starting to put their plan in action by insisting there was no Chuck. He leaves and walks around the grounds, trying to decide what to do next. He sees his wife, who tells him to leave the island and don't go to the lighthouse. She says the lighthouse will destroy him. He decides to blow up Dr. Colley's car to create a diversion so he can sneak down to the lighthouse. He uses his tie from his suit, soaks it with gas from the gas tank, and lights it. As he moves away from the car, he sees his wife and the little girl in front of the car. It explodes around them but they aren't burned at all. He runs out of there to make it to the lighthouse. He swims over to it, and sneaks up behind a guard and overpowers him and takes his rifle. The guard asks him if he is going to kill him and he says no, but hits him with the rifle butt and knocks him out. He runs up the stairs of the lighthouse to the top, checking each room but finding no operating rooms for surgical experiments. He gets to the top and finds Dr. Colley, sitting behind a desk. Teddy holds the rifle on him while he is talking. The doctor tells him there are no bullets in the rifle, and asks him if he killed the guard below. Teddy says no, But the doctor calls down anyway to tell the people below to attend to the guard before they come up. Teddy sees his gun from the beginning of the movie on the doctor's desk. Dr. Colley tells Teddy that he is a patient at the hospital, and has been for 2 years. Teddy doesn't believe him, and says that he is a U.S. Marshal. The doctor says he was one, but after his breakdown 2 years ago he was sent here. He broke down when his kids were killed. Teddy says he doesn't have any kids. Dr. Colley says they have been trying to use the new drug therapy to help him and have been trying to do everything they could to treat him. Dr. Colley tells him that he has been one of the most dangerous patients they have had and that there are some who want to lobotomize him to make him manageable. The whole last couple of days were an attempt to do a massive roleplay to get him to finally realize the truth. He calls in Dr. Sheehan, the doctor from the beginning that went on vacation right after his patient Rachel disappeared. The door opens and it is Chuck. He is a psychiatrist who agreed to play along with Teddy's fantasy and to keep tabs on him. Dr. Colley tells Teddy that his real name is Laetus, and he shows him on a chalkboard that his full name and Laetus's are an anagram. That is, all the letters in his name can be rearranged to spell Laetus's full name. The same thing with his wife's name and Rachel's. Teddy constructed the new name Teddy Daniels to create distance from his real name. Teddy grabs his gun off the table and shoots Dr. Colley, whose blood splashes against the wall. The next second, there is no blood. Dr. Colley tells him that his gun was a toy gun they gave him when they began the roleplay. He tells Teddy that he has completely erased everything he did wrong in an attempt to make himself be the hero. We finally see a flashback where Teddy comes home to his cottage from a week or 2 of chasing bad guys in Oklahoma. Teddy runs down to the lake and sees his 3 children face down in the lake. He scoops them all up, crying uncontrollably, and places them on the ground. Then his wife hugs him and says they should put the kids at the dining room table and have dinner. Teddy is crying and says if she ever loved him, please stop talking. She is sad now and says she loves him, and then there is a shot. Teddy looks down and realizes that he just shot his wife. She is laying there with a lot of blood on her and then she dies. Teddy now realizes that he has a choice between accepting his truth or continuing to deny it. The doctor makes it clear that if he can't accept the truth, then Dr. Colley won't be able to stop the other doctors from ordering that he be lobotomized. He makes Teddy admit that he blamed himself for not realizing earlier that his wife was having trouble. That he feels responsible for killing his kids because he didn't get her help when she needed it. He created a fantasy world where he never killed his wife, and he never had a breakdown. The next day, he and Chuck are sitting on some steps by the hospital grounds. He asks Chuck what their next move is, as if he still believes he is investigating the hospital as a U.S. Marshal. Chuck nods to the other doctors across the grounds, who then direct some orderlies to move towards Teddy. The movie ends with Teddy asking Chuck whether it's better to live as a monster or die a good man. He stands up and willingly goes with the orderlies, as he would rather choose to continue his fantasy than accept the horrors of his reality, being lobotomized at the end. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and remember to turn on notifications to get the best rap cinema updates.